Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for having this hearing, and thank you, Mr. Dodaro. I really appreciate it. I think there is lots of work to do to make not only better and productive decisions that are sustainable to make sure these programs are effective and not redundant and not wasteful, but also making sure that they're as really focusing on efficacy and either making decisions about keeping that program if it's a priority and fixing it and being clear about that and accountable, or eliminating that program and moving to something else that might meet that priority. And I want to talk about one of those programs. New Mexico has one of the highest foreclosure rates still in the country. In 2010, during the height of the crisis, 1 out of every 46 homes was going through a foreclosure process in Albuquerque. There are thousands of homeowners in New Mexico who try to receive help from the Federal Housing Administration's Home Affordable Modification Program, or HAMP. And actually, before coming to Congress, I helped folks in a prior life to navigate it, and I found it to be the most confusing, difficult, ineffective effort of any program I have ever been associated with, and was quite disappointed and still am. You find in your report that the Federal Housing Administration has failed to collect adequately and analyze any performance data of its foreclosure mitigation programs, including HAMP. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
So the Federal Housing Administration has not conducted any analyses on the effectiveness of their foreclosure mitigation programs, the same programs that are, frankly, the only lifeline that my constituents went through to find help and stay in their homes. And I might add that very few of them, and unfortunately, because we don't have the data, it's anecdotal. It doesn't appear that it's helped very many New Mexicans. Do you have any information that would provide me a little better sense about whether HAMP was helpful or not?
Yes. I'm going to ask Oris Williams-Brown, who's in charge of our work in that area, to respond. I would note, though, we also found problems at VA and agriculture as well.
Let me start with the report that you're referring to actually spent much of its focus on FHA. In terms of Treasury and the HAMP program, they actually did a little better job in terms of collecting information. That said, we have chronicled for the last 5 years all of the problems associated with the HAMP program, and there are a number of them that we identified with how the program was rolled out overall and the extent to which it's actually helped homeowners. In terms of FHA and its efforts to deal with foreclosures, we found that FHA needs to do a better job collecting information, because if you look at the data and you look at cases of redefaults, it's important for agencies to look at their efforts that they've taken to address foreclosures and to drill into the data to find out which approaches work and which approaches have been less effective, rather than just continuing to take action. And we actually found with FHA that if they focus on reducing the payment by a significant amount, we found that about 30 to 49% tended to be the sweet spot in terms of having a lower redefault rate. And we found that actually if you go over 50.
Right,
okay.
And I appreciate that, but you raise a very important point. 5 years of collecting data, and that's 5 years where people are not arguably getting the assistance that they need by that program. And I can tell you that in my state, it's a significant issue, and I get as many complaints about HAMP and the other mitigation programs as I do about dealing with the lending institutions and the loan servicers and the attorneys. They're not distinguished. Would you also, and I mean, what I really want is an effective program that meets the needs of the constituents, but do you also believe that getting this data and having an effective program would save the Federal Government money if we were administering that program more effectively?
We found with FHA that, yes, that would be the case.
And you've actually answered my last question, which is the lack of this program evaluation and performance data, that it's a common problem among programs and agencies that the GAO analyzes.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, this is one area where I think effective congressional oversight would be enormously helpful.
And I'm about out of time, but Mr. Chairman, and for the folks testifying today, it would also, I think, mitigate tons of consumer fraud in the interim that is now certainly pervasive in my state because folks have no idea what's a credible program, who's doing what, how you get through. The response times are slow. It's an arduous process at best. And it's probably good that I'm out of time to give you other examples and adjectives about how I feel. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You know, you sound like a Republican complaining about government bureaucracy. Better be careful.
I think a little bipartisan work, Mr. Chairman, on these issues would be a very good thing.
I certainly agree.